Screen Weens, presented by Michael Myers. Are you ready to get your stab on?
No.
Welcome, everyone, to Screen Weens, the podcast about everything in the world. My name is London.
I'm Thomas.
And this is episode 159.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Might be 160.
I feel like I've been off like one each time. 159, I was right.
Woo!
Next up is 160, which will come out on Halloween.
Ooh. Yes.
As always, we're going to be talking about movies, but before we do that, we're going to be talking about the other things we've done this week. If that's watch movies, if that's get laid, if that's destroy the patriarchy, if that's, just random shit. And Thomas, take it away. What have you been up to?
Not actually a whole lot this week. Just kind of, working, reading, and, watching the Halloween movies. We're recording Read Wings on John Darnielle's, Devil House after this. So, read a lot of that in my free time this time, so. But yes.
We won't really talk about that book, but I was, I log in on Goodreads. I have, even this, and even like most of the movies we've been watching like recently, because Texas Chainsaw also kind of covers stuff like that. But the Halloween movies especially the newer ones, like, a lot of like Halloween Ends I felt was pretty similar too.
Yeah, I felt some ideas from Halloween Ends. It feels like kind of like the overall big themes are actually surprisingly Halloween 2-ish.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
It's also very funny because I just like logging things because it helps me log them in my memory. So I have a Goodreads account that I just like use to help me. Yeah. And there are a lot of people that really don't like Devil House on that. It's mostly like actual people that want to read real true crime. And it's pretty much an indictment of them.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily an indictment, but to be like, hey, maybe we should be more conscious of what we're consuming. Yeah. And it's like, no, fuck you, John.
No, I want my 10th adaptation of Jeffrey Dahmer right now, and I want the hottest actor they can find to play him. But seriously, give us some more hot Dahmer. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So just been reading. Yeah, I had my week pretty open because I finished the book last week. But what else? Did you end up watching anything else or
no? I'm thinking about seeing Black Adam soon though, because been kind of feeling a draw towards. I guess this is kind of spoilers. It's a leak that's out, but
spoilers for Black Adam. Skip ahead 30 seconds.
Superman.
Yeah, he's
like
he's
even if it's Henry Cavill, because I like Henry Cavill as Superman. It's just his material.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's. I think he could be great.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they just like fix whatever problems they have.
He has the red trunks.
He does.
I think. And somebody on Twitter was like shitting on that. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Piss off.
It's just pretty much the Man of Steel outfit with the red trunk.
That's
it
fine.
Looks good. I think.
The Man of Steel outfit, it's not my favorite, but if it had the red trunks, I feel like it'd not be as atrocious as people make it out to be.
Outside of Black Adam spoilers, I thought the movie was fun. I really like Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
Oh, really?
He's really hot as it, which is funny because he's like 70 now.
Oh, really?
Or some shit. Yeah, I think he's just around 70 or like 69.
I guess that makes sense.
But yeah, I enjoyed the movie. Like it doesn't like do anything spectacular, but it's fun. It's also like genuinely funny. While I think most superhero media in the last 10 years is almost never funny.
Yeah. I've just been kind of craving like, not that I'm really like trying to get back into superhero media quite yet. I might go through the Marvel shows or something at one point, even though I don't want to. But I just want something that has like the heart of like the first Superman or that Spider-Man trilogy and stuff. So it's like, I feel like that's really hard to come by in superhero shit these days.
Pierre loved Black Adam. But I really enjoyed it. Tell you really enjoyed it. It's just like, it's goofy and it's self-aware and it's fun. There's like There's a scene where he sees like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on TV or something, or it was one of the like Clint Eastwood like Man with No Name trilogy. I don't know which one, but it's one where it's like one of the iconic scenes where he's like pulling the gun and they have a shoot off, and then like 10 minutes later he does the same thing with a guy, but he just shoots lightning out of his hands.
Oh, nice.
It's goofy, and you know, it was like genuinely a fun movie. There is a part where it shows, like, The Rock before he becomes, like, he gets, like, the powers. Oh. And so they have to CG him down, and it's very funny, because he's still on his body, his head's still on, like, a pretty ripped guy, but he looks just so out of place, because I'm like, no, The Rock needs to look just gigantic.
Yeah, like, kind of like Captain America, a bit. Yeah. That's also a good one. I like that one, too.
It's funny, though, because I feel like Chris Evans, like jacked Chris Evans, and the guy who plays The Rock before a Black Adam transformation, they're probably the same, like, around build, but The Rock's just so big. But yeah, I liked it. I liked pretty much... Yeah, I really like Hawkman in it.
Nice.
Yeah, Hawkman looks great. Like, the costume looks really good. And I really like that most of the costumes look pretty authentic, even if they're, like, goofy.
Yeah. Is it like... Because I know, like, the DC universe is, like, you know, weird fucking...
Yeah, I mean, it's, like, it's not... Besides the after credit scene, it's not really, like, tied. Viola Davis is in it. She plays Amanda Waller again. She's the thing holding the DC universe together, apparently. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not like spectacular, but yeah, it's fine. I honestly am more excited to watch most DC movies than I am to see most Marvel, because they still feel like different movies.
Yeah,
even if they aren't good all the time, I'm like, this feels less bland.
No, I feel that. That's kind of why I was scared when I heard that they were trying to like kind of scrap everything and go towards that more Marvel model again. Yeah. And it's like, just don't. It'd be better to have you be the counter to Marvel at this point.
I agree. Let's see what else I watched. I got drunk a couple nights ago, and I rewatched Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, nice.
So good.
Theatrical or directors?
This time it was just on HBO, so we watched the theatrical cut. And I don't mind that ending. Like, I think it's fine. I think in my drunken state, I was happier to watch that ending. So, like, they're okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like, I think the other ending is better. I think both, like, make for a fine movie and fine ending.
No, I feel it. I grew up with theatrical, so I've got a soft spot for it, although just the technical beauty of that director's cut.
I agree with that. But it's like, I'm like, I don't really want to go out of my way to find the director's cut right now. If it's right here, I'm like, I know what it is. I don't really need to watch it right now. But that's a movie that, like, every time I watch it, I like it more. Like,
that's probably contender for the movie I've seen most amount of times in my life.
And then I watched the Beyond the Resonator and Curse of the Reanimator, which are 2 and 3 in that trilogy. I thought the second one was fine.
Yeah.
It's even shorter. It's like under an hour. And then the third one's even shorter. But the third one, like, literally, like, the way they crash everything together is, like, the worst way possible. And it's probably on par with the first one. The second one I thought was, like, pretty decent.
Okay.
I then watched Lyle Crocodile in theaters.
I've seen that title floating around. I don't know.
It's I've never read these books, but apparently they were popular kids' books, like Paddington.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it, I think.
It was fine. It was better than expected. It was relatively endearing, and it was weird. And Javier Bardem is in it, and he is just going all out. He's great in it.
Yeah.
Him and Lyle sing a song right at the beginning, and it's like the best song in the movie, unfortunately. So the rest, I'm like, I wish they were singing again.
Yeah.
Then I watched Ticket to Paradise, which is the new George Clooney. Who's the other person in it? As soon as I see her face, I'm gonna remember. Oh yeah, Julia Roberts. George Clooney, Julia Roberts, like rom-com, and I don't know. It's nice to see like rom-coms in theaters again, just because like I don't really like it when we get just like nothing of a genre. It's like, oh look, you can go see the superhero movie, or the scary movie. I'm like, why don't we get a little bit of everything? And I like rom-coms. They're fun to watch. It was fine. And then I watched Black Adam, and then I watched a movie called Splatter: Naked Blood, which is like a made for, I think, TV, like a Japanese horror movie from like the late 90s about this guy who makes a serum that pretty much, instead of feeling pain, it like hits the like pleasure receptors instead. And these three women are all like subjected to it unknowingly. And it's pretty fucking gross. It was really fun. The setup's pretty fun. I like the characters. They're like not really like characters. They're more like delivery devices for like the themes, which is fine for this like hour and 10-minute horror movie. But yeah, there's like it takes a while to start getting fucked up, but then it gets really fucked up. Okay. Like a woman is, she's like really into eating food. So then she starts eating herself. Oh. And it's like she's cutting off parts of her labia and eating it. And then she like cuts off her nipple. And I'm like, oh God. And then she just jams a fork in her eye and like cuts it off and eats it. I was like, and it looks pretty fucking gross. Like, and the sound design is like really squelching, and I'm like, oh, like I actually felt like I was gonna throw up. Nah, it was good. And then the other woman, she's all into like, she wants to have like the perfect body, so she like sees like pores that are too big, so she's just like cutting them off, and was like, oh God. I just wanted to watch like a really fucked up movie. And it was good. It was good. I like the like themes presented in it as well. Like it was overall a pretty good movie. It just also made me want to throw up. And then I watched, almost done here. This morning I watched a short film called Alma, which is an animated horror movie from like the late 2000s about a little girl who like sees a doll in the window to this store, and it's like looks exactly like her. She like wanders in, and when she touches it, she becomes the doll. Sounds vaguely familiar. I feel like if I saw it when it came out when I was like 12, it would have fucked me up. Because I don't know why, but like a big fear of mine when I was a kid was like, what if I get turned into a doll? That's fair. Like, what if I couldn't move? There's like this like kids Tales from the Crypt kind of thing that I used to watch when I was a kid. And one episode had like Shia LaBeouf and that is scary. One of the fucking Sprouse twins in it. Might have been both of them playing the same character, but at the very end, Shia LaBeouf's character gets turned into a doll. So, and it's one of those like kind of like goosebumpy endings where it's like, oh, we end on kind of a creepy note. And I don't know. I always found it kind of off-putting, so... There was that, and then there were a couple of stories that I read as a kid, like scary stories, where like a kid would get locked in a trunk. It scared the fuck out of me. Yeah. And I mean, like, yeah, that would be scary now too, but I'm not like, I don't even fit in a trunk. Yeah, it'd be hard to get you in one. I'm like, you gotta cut off my legs, and by then I'm just gonna bleed out anyway, so whatever. Yeah. Huh. But yeah, that's what I watched this week. We've been going through Hunter x Hunter. It's fine. It's fun enough. Yeah. What arc are you at? They're going to it's like the second arc. They're going to Killua's house. Oh, okay. To like go save him. Yeah, you're like right on the cusp of when it starts to pick up. The first arc's kind of like... It was fine. Yeah, it's fine. I think that's how everyone kind of generally feels about it for the first couple arcs, and then once you get to like the arena, that's when it like starts to... I will say I am enjoying it more than I enjoyed like JoJo's Part 1. Yeah. Thought that was also fine, but less fine. Yeah, JoJo's Part 1's pretty dated. I do like watching the dub because it's Johnny Youngbosch, like mostly just doing like his regular voice acting, but just then with a slight British accent, and like the last like eighth of a word. We were watching Hunter x Hunter dubbed. We've been kind of switched. Like I'm fine watching whatever, but I think his name's just Bean. the like little green bean guy, his dub voice is Lupin's dub.
Oh,
yeah. So he's like, "Hey everybody, the next challenge will," you know, like this is incredible.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I haven't watched. I've watched like small bursts of the current dub for 2011. But it's all right. I don't have any.
I like the main four's dub fine, and that's usually like if I like the central characters, I don't like this.
Yeah, there's some casting choices later on where I remember being kind of iffy on, but yeah, for the main cast, it's pretty good. I like Mercer's Leorio a lot.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, that's what I've done this week, and I watched Halloween 1 and 2.
The originals?
No.
Oh, I think I may have watched the wrong Halloweens.
Oh, man, what? Let's see if we have questions from Pierre real quick.
Yeah.
Gotta switch my email real quick. Here we go. Questions from Pierre. What's the best movie about the sun? Sunshine, starring by Danny Boyle. That's actually about the sun. I think that movie's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of more movies that are just about the sun.
Google movies about the sun.
Yeah, I might have to be inclined to agree just simply due to a lack of ideas coming to mind. Let's see, movies involving sun. Can I count Superman? That's got like big sun vibes.
You can count All-Star Superman.
All-Star Superman.
Which that movie's not good.
No. The comic's a little better. Yeah. The movie.
I really like the idea of it. It's just like the way that's the movie's pacing and structuring is just really bad.
Yeah. Movies about sun.
Yeah, Sunshine is like the only movie I can really think of. I think there's an animated movie called like Moon, like that I saw a while ago that was about like the sun and the moon.
I'm going to say Before Sunrise because it's building to the sun.
Sure. I guess that movie is better than Sunshine. So if you say that that's about the sun, then I would agree with you. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would agree that's about the sun, though.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not.
Question 2. Do you remember the movie Meet the Robinsons? I do. I do. I don't really like that movie.
Yeah. That's the one where it's like, oh, big head, little arms, right?
Yeah. I remember that scene.
Yeah.
I watched that movie not even too long, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember you talking about like watching it on the podcast recently.
I don't even think it... I walked in and they were watching it. I think I was picking Hinata up for something. They were watching it and I watched like the last half. And I'm like, wow. I don't like that movie.
Yeah. I don't really...
I don't actually know, though, if I've seen it in its entirety.
I saw it in its entirety, like, back in 2009 when it first came out. But, like... Yeah, I don't really, I don't recall, like... I remember the plot twist. I remember vague, like, familial things about it. Like, oh, we don't care if you're from the past. You're part of this future family of ours, or whatever. And yeah, I remember things about it, but as a whole, I don't really remember it. Probably wouldn't care for it much, though.
I will say that director, he was one of the directors on the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie, which, like, nobody watched. It was, like, an hour long. It's delightful, though.
Well, good for him.
Question 3. What superhero deserves to have a movie about them going to the DMV? The movie is directed by David Lynch. I think David Lynch could make a good movie about the DMV, first of all, but it'd be a superhero movie. It'd be about, like, the tests of one's patience. Superman going to the DMV is a good one. No. Superman's too nice. It'd be too easy for Superman.
I think Batman, because he, A, drives a car.
Yeah.
B, he's not nice.
Yeah.
The dark themes of Batman and the dark themes of David Lynch would probably coalesce pretty nice.
Yeah.
Probably go Batman.
Yeah, let's go Batman.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a new Batman, though. I wouldn't want, like, Pattinson's Batman. I wouldn't want, like, Affleck's Batman.
It'd be Kyle MacLachlan.
Or that could be the Michael Keaton return. David Lynch's Michael Keaton's Batman goes to the DMV. That's what it would be called.
I'd be down.
All right. Thank you for the wonderful questions, Pierre. As always, if you want to ask questions, just put them in the comments or email us at 2weensandascreen@gmail.com. Yahoo!
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Rob Zombie's Halloween. Oh, I was going to sing a Rob Zombie song at the beginning and then I forgot.
Oh. The moment's passed.
You know, I will say, I don't think this movie's bad. I think it's fine.
No, I don't think it's bad either. I mean, there are definitely, like, scenes in it that I would probably describe as bad. But I think my main issue with it is that it's like, okay, fucking Halloween's been all about the nature. We want to look at, like, the nurture side of it.
Yeah.
But they go with the most, like, just copy and paste generic, like, kind of like serial killer origin story, which I just found very uninteresting to watch.
That's
but yeah.
I also think that this movie kind of, like, just starts to, like, putter out. Like, I feel like it has a really strong start. Like,
That's where most of the ambition in the film lies.
I wasn't necessarily, like, super on board with the idea of, like, oh, let's explore Michael as a character. I'm like, Black Christmas, that 2000 remake, did the same thing. I'm like, that's a weird... I think this is a more interesting character to do it with, because, like, at least he has, like, a name and, like... So, like, the ideas behind exploring his character, I think, are founded more than the fucking character from Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, that's a weird character to do that to.
It's very strange. And the way that they do it in that movie is also very strange. He's got jaundice and he's an incest baby who lives in the attic.
But I think this movie, like, the ideas behind it, I like that it doesn't really even involve Laurie until, like, 30, 40 minutes in. Like, the rest is all Michael. I think if they were going to do it this route, this is the good route to do it, to present it all at the beginning, and then kind of switch those protagonists.
Yeah.
I also think the guy who plays Junie, from Spy Kids, he's the first kid that's killed. I think his death is, like, the most horrifying. Because, I don't know, he's just, like...
I mean,
maybe I just think his performance was pretty decent. And just, like, his battered and saddened look. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then the rest, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. No, I think my main issue with this movie is that, like, yeah, the first half is just kind of like this. I don't want to call it uninspired, but it feels uninspired to me.
I think maybe the idea behind it is uninspired. I think the execution is a little better than I guess I was expecting.
Yeah. And then it just kind of becomes like a rushed remake of the first film, where the only major difference, aside from, like, the pace, is that, like, the film operates under the fact that, like, Laurie is Michael's sister, which isn't present in the original film.
Yeah. Which I do think if you're going to make them like siblings, I'd prefer it in the first film, because it just feels really weird in Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Like, and that's okay.
The TV cut of the first film, which was released leading up to the second film, they shot and inserted, like, a scene in that, which does that, but also I don't like that version of the movie.
I also don't think that, like, it's a good idea. I don't think having it. I'm fine with them, like, being connected, like the way that they do it in, like, David Gordon Green stuff. Like, I'm fine with that idea. I just think it's dumb to have them be siblings.
Yeah.
And I like that the idea behind them being connected is kind of, I don't think it's really connected until she survives, and then they're, like, connected through destiny. Like, I'm fine with that. But I like that Michael's a random fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
and this woman just happens to survive, and then they're connected after that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's see. I guess let's start at the beginning.
Yeah. So Michael is like a 10-year-old little boy.
Yeah. To anyone in the audience who's seen Hancock, you know the kid he tosses up in the air? It's that kid.
Which they didn't get him to return for the second one?
No.
I don't know if there
when they originally started shooting the second one, they actually did bring him back, and they, I think shot maybe a scene or two, but they decided he was just too visually different because of the age, so they decided to go even more visually different and hire the completely different kid.
Yeah.
I think it would have just been better. I think most people would have accepted the fact that he had aged up a little bit and could have gotten past it, but...
It was only 2 years, right? 3 years?
Yeah, it was 2 years. It would have been 2 years when they shot it, because probably took a year of post-production after they shot the first one, and he sat on it for a year before they started production on the second one, so...
But I think both of the child actors for Michael are fine, though.
Yeah, they're alright. The one in the second one doesn't really have a whole lot to do.
Yeah, he more walks around and looks menacing for a child, I guess. Yeah. But I like what they're trying to do, I guess. Yeah. I just don't think they really nail any of it. And I think if they were going to go this route where you have this 30 minutes of build up where he kills someone, he's been killing animals, and he just is his mind's devolving, and then he kills his whole family except for the baby and his mom. I think if you're going to do that, you need to have a higher runtime, because then the last hour it's just this breakneck pace that doesn't really, I guess, properly honor the kind of gentle, quiet pacing of the original. It just doesn't really work, and the way that they have so many kills in that first half an hour, it just makes it feel really lopsided. Yeah. So it makes this middle chunk just kind of bland. Mm-hmm. Which is disappointing because I watching that first half. I'm not bad. I wasn't woo, but I'm not bad.
Yeah, I find that initial introduction scene of the Myers household to be quite grating to get through, and I realize it was designed that way. Yeah, but it's still just oh my god, this is the most annoying scene on earth.
Yeah, I think I had heard that the writing for these characters of Michael's family was rough. I don't necessarily I think it's rough and it's grating. I think it might just be a little too much. I don't think it's so over the top, because I remember living in places and hearing families exactly like this through the walls.
Yeah, it's definitely just probably, it's not so far out into the weeds, but yeah, it is.
I think
I'm gonna come over there and I'm gonna skull fuck you. It's just
I think it's mostly, I think pretty much all the dialogue in there I would be fine with. I think just the way they structure it, it's only that. It's never normal speech patterns. Yeah. It's just weird, edgy one-liners, and that's the only way they talk.
Yeah. It's kind of Rob Zombie's dialogue in general.
Which I think could work for some things. I feel like I'm going to watch The Munsters and be this works.
Maybe.
But I know The Munsters is a lot more jovial, and it's PG or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Watching these movies, it kind of made me realize, I'm maybe I would like Rob Zombie's movies. I don't necessarily love either of these movies, but I'm I get what he's going for, and I think with maybe the right script and the right attitude towards it, he also seems like he's having a lot of fun making these movies. I did watch the theatrical cut, by the way. I didn't want to watch.
Yeah, I watched the theatrical cut for both of them. They both have director's cuts. I've heard people say the director's cut for 2 is better, and I looked up the differences, and I think the version I watched years ago was the director's cut for that one, which I remember.
They have completely different endings for 2, right, or something like that.
Not completely different endings, but the way the ending plays out has pretty different implications on the story.
Well, we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah.
I also watched the theatrical. I was thinking about watching the directors, but I'm like, I feel like if I wanted to do that, I would want to do both.
And to my understanding, the director's cut for the second one's pretty hard to track down unless you get a DVD or something.
It was on Vudu.
Oh,
I rented both of these, so I was like, man, I almost bought them because they were on sale. And I'm like, I could spend $1 more and buy them, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to rewatch any of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's like 3 Halloween movies I would want to rewatch. I mean, maybe in the future I'd want to rewatch the whole David Gordon Green trilogy.
If I'm being entirely honest, I will watch all the Halloween movies again.
I mean, I don't think I'll probably do that as well. I'll probably, because I'll be like, well, I got through all the big horror franchises. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I'd say like within recent years, Halloween's probably the slasher franchise I've revisited the most often. I think I've watched like 4, 5, and 6 probably like a couple times in the last few years. I love watching Resurrection.
Yeah. I hope that when I rewatch them all, there's one of my mutuals on Letterboxd has been watching all of them and like loving all of them. I'm like, I wish I could do that with horror.
Yeah. I will say I acknowledge that pretty much all of the Halloween movies, minus like the original, are like bad for the most part.
Don't you fucking say that about Season of the Witch.
Oh my god.
I know you're not that big of a fan of that movie, but I thought it rules.
I want to love Season of the Witch, and I think that the parts of it that are wild and crazy I do love, but I think the majority of the movie is just kind of a boring standard noir. And it's like mostly just that. Mm-hmm. So I struggle with it. But I think that all the Halloween movies are, despite being bad, extremely rewatchable somehow.
Like I'm trying to think. I'm like, even though I think most of them are bad, like I wasn't like super bored with a lot of them. Mm-hmm. I feel like I was pretty bored with 5.
5 is probably my least favorite, just because it's a rehash of 4. It offs a fan favorite character in the beginning for no fucking reason and replaces her with the worst character. It's just like it walks back that interesting idea that the end of 4 had kind of set up completely. It doesn't even really acknowledge it, so it's like...
Yeah, I remember I was really annoyed at that. But anyway, back to Rob Zombie's Halloween. Same thing with that, though. Like, I don't necessarily like this movie, but I'm like, I could rewatch this. I'm like, this is...
Yeah.
I really like the guy who plays Michael in this, because he's huge. I like Michael being, like, fucking huge in this.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I like that dynamic shift, because he's like a bigger guy in the originals and stuff, but he's not, like, he doesn't have the same like physicality, and I kind of like him being fucking massive. I like it when slashers are like massive, because I can believe they can take a couple bullets. I'm like, yeah, that guy looks like he can take a couple bullets.
Yeah, no, I feel
it. And I really like his dynamic with Danny Trejo. I like that stuff. I like his like, I was good to you, Mikey.
Yeah, I feel so bad for his character every time.
But I'm like, this, I think this adds like, I'm glad they killed him, like, story-wise. I'm like, that makes sense. I'm like, I wish but then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, this is a better idea that they did kill him.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
It like, shows that he's, like, still so far going. I also really like his dynamic with Loomis in this movie, at the beginning, because I feel like Loomis in the first movie... Like, he's not a nice guy. He's a bad person. He built Michael.
Yeah, and all that.
While this...
movies, it starts off more subtle, but as they go along, Loomis gets further into the weeds, and this movie kind of embraces that more so instead of having it be more subtle.
Yeah, but at the very beginning, he seems like he's actually trying. Like, he's really trying, but by the end of it, he's like, you're my best friend. That's just, it adds an interesting dynamic to him that, like, he maybe legitimately was a good person trying, but then he kind of devolves into giving up and seeing him as the evil, like, incarnate. Yeah. It's like, cool, you've built this monster again. But I also really like, what's his name? The guy who plays Loomis in this.
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah. I think he's a good choice for Loomis.
Yeah, no,
especially this like idea of Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think the ending really fizzles out. Doesn't really feel climatic.
Yeah. No, once it just devolves into a rushed remake of the original, it kind of loses all that momentum and all the interesting ideas that it was trying to weave up in the first half.
I think the girl who plays Lori is pretty good later on. I think the first, like, when she's just kind of talking, I think some of the dialogue in this movie, I don't even mind the dialogue with, like, Michael's family. I think some of the later dialogue with, like, regular people is rougher.
No, that's when it becomes apparent that it's like, oh, this is how Rob Zombie writes dialogue, especially when it's coming out of, like, teenage girl mouths. And it's like,
and I'm like, I've heard teenage girls talk like this. Like, I don't think it's unreasonable that they would, but this is the only thing they're saying. I think that's the main issue I have with these dialogues is, like, this is the only way they talk. I'm like, no person has ever only spoken like this.
Yeah. I kind of like don't like the fact that they all kind of feel like they're cut from the same cloth in this one too. It's one of the things I really like about the original is you can tell that like they had Deborah Hill come in and like do some of the writing for the girls because like they all felt like different kind of.
But they felt like they could be friends, and these also felt like they could be friends, but they also felt like they were not necessarily clones of each other, but heavily influenced by each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
like I don't get so much of the like kind of like quiet like, oh, I'm too shy to ask out Ben Tramer that you get from Lori in the original. Which she's
definitely more abrasive in this one, which I don't necessarily mind as an idea.
Yeah.
If you're going to recreate characters and do a remake, I prefer if you change things. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, what? I could just watch the original if you're not going to do anything new.
Yeah, fair.
So it's like, I respect what this movie's going for. I just don't think it really nails most of what it's going for.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I thought it was fine. I was like, this was a movie?
Yeah.
This was fine. I think it looks okay. I think the performances are pretty decent. I like Michael being big, and I like the first, like, half an hour. A decent amount, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah. Ken Foree's in it. I like that.
He is.
For, like, 20 seconds.
Yeah. What's his name?
Oh, Brad Dourif?
No, Ken Foree's character in this.
Oh, fuck, I don't remember. Some trucker name.
Yeah.
Big Pete.
I do like his... Michael starts, like, trying to fight him. He's like, I'm not scared! I'm not scared!
Yeah.
Like, you're getting wrecked, dude. You're about to die.
Right. Oh, man. Ken Foree needs to be more... I need more Ken Foree cameos in modern horror.
Big Joe Grizzly.
Big Joe. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Brad Dourif in this role is fine. I think I like his character, I think, more in the second one because he's like expanded more.
Yeah, got a lot more to work with in that one.
I like seeing Danielle Harris in this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's not a high schooler, but okay.
Yeah.
Like at least it's like, yeah, it's Danielle Harris. Like, aren't you like 30 here?
I don't know if she was that old, but she was definitely not in high school at that point. Yeah, no, Danielle Harris is a delight to see. I don't know how true this is. Apparently, Danielle Harris was treated very rudely by Jamie Lee Curtis at like the Halloween Ends premiere. I've heard some stuff about buzzing around. I need to look more into that. But
she was 30.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe 29 when they filmed it, but...
Damn, okay.
She was born in 77.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, that's surprising to hear.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but I need to look more into that.
I haven't heard this, but...
Yes.
Yeah, I think you would give this movie like a 5 or a 4, 5.
Yeah. I think you're probably at like a 6.
No, I'm at a 5, I think.
Okay.
I thought it was fine. I like the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'm fine with the rest of the movie. Like, I'm like, this is watchable.
Yeah.
Which is better than, like, the majority of Halloween movies. Like, oh, they're watchable. But at least some of them, I'm like, this is bad.
Yeah. No, it's not actively god-awful like some of them can be.
Halloween 2.
Halloween 2.
You know, I like this one. I don't think it's great, but I like it. I like it.
I watched this one once when it first came out and didn't like it and never really tried it again. So I was more pleasantly surprised this time around. I'd still probably say it falls towards like the bottom of the Halloween pile for me. Maybe not quite the bottom, because 5 exists, but
I personally am more confused about this one that like people like hate this one, because I'm just like, I don't.
Yeah, I think
I'm like, this is just feels like a Halloween movie to me. Like, it's definitely more like psychedelic, and they're trying to do a lot of things, but I'm like,
I think a lot of that stems from people who have seen the director's cut. Because the director's cut implications leans more into the, like, Friday the 13th 5 or the Halloween Ends kind of thing. Because, alright, spoilers for the movie. Yeah. We're getting into the finale here.
So the end of 2 that we watched.
Yeah. So the theatrical cut seems to imply that, like, Michael Myers did come back and was doing these, whereas in the director's cut, the implication is that, like, Laurie has snapped and is, like, imagining it, and she's the one
killing all these people.
So that's where, like, the 2 cuts vastly differ, because she tries to, like, come out and kill Loomis in the director's cut. So
like, in the director's cut, like, nobody is in that house, like that shack or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, they're being kept, and there's just nobody in there.
It's Laurie in there.
Like, that's besides her, I meant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which I also think that would have been fine. I feel like I would have liked that ending. I like this ending too, because it also implies that she snapped. It's just afterward, I guess, or because she's still seeing these visions.
Yeah. And there's a lot more scenes, maybe not a lot more, but there's a couple more scenes of her, like, acting out, and it gets more into, like, honestly, I wish I had watched the director's cut, because I looked up some of the differences between it, because I couldn't remember. And it seems like the kind of points that I was like, on in the theatrical cut are more fleshed out in the director's cut, like that dream sequence she has with Annie. It's because she, like, holds a lot of resentment towards Annie, because, like, she just kind of looks at her with, like, basically, like, just is constantly reminded, and just kind of feels like Annie's, like, looking down on her for her situation in life, and that, like, manifests.
Well, and I think it's kind of even clear in this movie, in this version, that, like, they both went through pretty much the same trauma. They both pretty much almost died, and Annie got it worse, like, physically, I guess. But she's adapted a lot better than, like, Laurie. Like, she's fine, pretty much. Like, she's okay.
She's trying to lead a normal life.
While Laurie is, like, still, like, having all these dreams and visions and
lashing out.
This made, like, I actually feel like if I watched the director's cut, I would also really like it, because I like this movie. I like what it's going for, but, like, these things that you've been saying about the director's cut, I'm like, yes, I think that's what this movie needed.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I wish I had watched the director's cut, but
I might do that this week then. Like, I might.
Yeah,
or at least soon.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll do that soon, but maybe next year once it gets October time again and I start feeling the...
Once you have to finish all your werewolf movies.
Oh, yes. Once I get the desire to rewatch the Halloween movies again. Because I've watched a handful of them this year, because I watched the new trilogy and then I watched these 2. I might pop in Resurrections for a good time. Because I love seeing fucking Busta Rhymes kick Michael in the dick, and then classic. For Michael to roar.
Well, as much as I hate Jason Takes Manhattan, I fucking love the scene where he's fighting him on the rooftop. If that whole movie was like that, I'd be like, this is the best movie ever made. But it's like that one good scene, and then a fucking awful movie.
Yeah. No,
doesn't Jason just fucking punch that guy's head off?
Oh, yeah, no, it's like the scene from, like, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, where it's just like... boom, and I'm pretty sure both movies have the scene where the head rolls, like, straight into the dumpster.
But yeah, Halloween 2 is a lot more exploratory on like the way that trauma survives and the way that like mental illness can be like triggered through your family, and like it can live through your family, and it also can like not really manifest until you are like triggered by something, or like trauma can trigger that. And I like these explorations as well. I like Halloween Ends. I like I like the original Halloween. I like the Gordon Green trilogy because that's kind of what they explore, the way that trauma lives through, especially with like Laurie's character. And I really do admire what they're trying to do with this one. Same with like the first one, but this one feels more creative. Like the creativity is really bumping. At least in this cut, I just don't, it's not quite, I don't think there's enough scenes with like the mom or like the exploration of what these mean to Michael.
Yeah.
I will say, if they were going to redesign Michael, I think I really like the way that like the mask is torn in this one, and you like see his eye and you see like the beard coming out. I really like that look for him, like in the finale, in the last.
Yeah, I think that's also an aspect that really turns people off from this one, is that they don't like that you see like Michael's face so clear cut, and that he actually that audibly speaks in that one scene.
I'm completely fine with it. I don't, because I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't think Michael Myers. I think Michael Myers is interesting as the shape, as an idea. People that are like, oh, he's so scary, he's gonna stab.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want.
I also view this canon's Michael as like a completely different beast from,
and it explores completely different themes too. Like that's why I think it's a welcome addition to the Halloween canon, because I'm like, sweet, we're trying new things. It's great.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I like what they like. I don't like 4, but I think they do some interesting things in the end of 4, and then they just fucking completely undercut it.
I like 4.
And that's fair.
Spot for it.
I might like it on rewatch.
It's more of the same, but just with a slightly different dynamic. A great ending. But, yeah.
But yeah, this one, Laurie's just trying to, like, live her life. She's living with Annie and Brad Dourif, who's, like, the sheriff. And I think he's really good in this movie.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good actor in general, but I really like him in this. I really like what they do with Loomis, because now he's just kind of evil. Now he's but more openly.
Embraced.
He's, like, using this trauma to sell books.
Yeah.
However, one scene that in the movie that actually, like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? He's on a talk show with Weird Al playing himself. I'm just like, is this real?
Yeah, that scene's very strange.
I don't necessarily mind the scene like around, like, I think this is an interesting exploration. He's being humiliated, and it's a good, like, mirroring of him humiliating, like, the victims and the victims' families and stuff like that. And he realizes that. He says, I'm an asshole. Like, he finally kind of realizes it at the end of the movie. Yeah. And he kind of tries to be good again.
Yeah, that's one complaint I have about. Maybe it's just this cut. Maybe it's more expanded in the director's cut. But I feel like particularly the ending of Loomis's arc in this is definitely rushed.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I'm like, he's about to go. Yeah, I'm like, it's been
on a dime.
Yeah, it's been a while since he's just kind of walking around. He's like, oh, I'm Loomis, la la la, I need money. Yeah, I would agree with that, but I feel like Weird Al being there, really, I'm just like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah. It was kind of a funny scene, though. He was like, hey, Mr. Al.
Was it Seth Meyer who was like
Mr. Weird? No, it wasn't Seth Meyer. It was some guy. I don't remember who it was. It wasn't like a guy who's on television anymore. If he was.
It was Chris Hardwick, I think. It was the Talking Dead guy who does stuff.
Chris Hardwick, yeah.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, that is weird. That is a weird scene.
Yeah, thematically, I think it works. It's just like execution. Like, this is really tonally different. Very strange.
Yeah, and I don't know how true it is. I heard that, like, they weren't sure if Malcolm McDowell was, like, gonna be able to, like, make it into this movie or not. So they, like, I guess maybe wrote his section of the film
to be able to, like, pull apart,
to, like, cut out. If
that kind of feels correct.
Yeah, So it's
it doesn't feel as integral as I would like it to be.
No,
like I want it to kind of, this looks like it wants to connect everything through that like shared trauma, and it just feels really disconnected, which I guess you could argue. It's like, no, that makes sense because he was always like the observer until the very end. But I don't think that's the intention. I think they just probably wrote it so they could pull it out.
Yeah. I'm also not a fan of the kind of like cryptic Lynchian type scenes, like the white horse shit. I
think
it's very Twin Peaksy in like a bad way.
Yeah, I think it's like,
it's not fleshed out enough.
Yeah, I think like that's what I think maybe more of it could maybe work, but I'm just like, this is kind of out of place. Like, I get what they're going for. I'm like, it's interesting. I like that Michael's kind of being visited by the one person he never wanted to kill. And she's goading him into it. She's not like real. She's a manifestation of like his hopes and dreams. And he's like, no, I'm doing good by my mother. But yeah, I just that doesn't quite work the way I think Rob Zombie wanted it to. But maybe, because I know there's like another like 12, 15 minutes in the director's cut. Like, that seems like enough time to expand upon these things. Like, all my ideas, I feel like you could fit that in 15, so.
Yeah, potentially. Let's see. Margot Kidder's in the movie briefly. She plays Laurie's therapist. We also get a cameo from Stretch from Texas Chainsaw 2.
Oh.
Yeah, the nurse.
Is she the... Oh, she's the other nurse?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, well, this lady looks familiar. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to, like, look at my phone.
Yeah. No, that was her. And yeah, I think that's all. I think that's it for, like, the kind of horror Easter egg cameos. And then, I can't think of her name. Ma.
Yeah. Olivia Butler?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she's got a brief role in this before she kind of blew up. But yeah.
Nope. Octavia Spencer. I'm like, this sounds so familiar. I feel like
it was the O.
Yeah, it was the O. I'm like, that. As soon as it hit, I'm like, that's not right. But yeah, I think she's good in this. She has like a very brief role, but
yeah, it's very small.
Yeah, like
Oh, another issue I have with this movie. It definitely feels all over the place in terms of like the fact that it starts off as like a condensed remake of just 2, and then
I will say, I'm like, this feels much better than 2 for me, at least pacing wise. I'm like,
well, yeah,
because 2, I'm like, this should not have been a whole movie.
No, 2 should have just been that last 20 minutes, honestly. But maybe the first like 5 minutes and then the last 20 minutes.
But this movie is like a condensed version, and actually it was just a dream.
Yeah.
And it is long for a dream sequence. It's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm like, so it's like a hyper condensed little slasher movie, pretty much. I'm like, that was weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And then, and apparently the director's cut also changes the time period. So instead of being 1 year, it's been 2 years in the director's cut. I guess not really that important, but just something I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So,
I think maybe if the other dream sequences had been longer and to the point where you're like trying to guess if this is real and if this is a dream, and then it would cut. Mm-hmm. I think that first scene would have worked. That first like dream sequence, I guess. Yeah. But because they don't do that, it just feels out of place.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the studios were like, we have an expectation. Like, people want Halloween 2, and you're going to at least give them a little bit of a remake of Halloween 2. So,
then I will say, I think this movie looks pretty good. There are a couple shots that I really like in this movie. I think most of like the more dream sequence stuff, like the black and white, I'm like, it looks kind of dumb. Some of it looks good, but some of the regular shots where Michael's just kind of like wandering around at night, and you just see like the moon backdrop and like a cornfield, I'm like, that looks nice. This looks fun. I also like that he doesn't put on the mask for a while. I like just seeing him walking around like an old hobo.
The scene that sticks out like a sore thumb to me in my mind for years. The fucking the oh god, what are they called? The fucking people who take away cadavers. The fucking
the people that take away cadavers.
Yeah. The one guy's like, oh yeah, like he gives this big fucking necrophilic speech, and then they just hit a random cow.
He's like, because the other guy finally makes a joke about it. Yeah. And then they're laughing. He's like, cow. And he's like, what? Cow?
Yeah. And
that's weird.
And it's like 2 minutes of him just pulling glass out of his face, going like, fuck.
He's like, help me. And then Michael's like, hey, it's me, Michael.
Yeah, and kills him. And it's just like, that. I feel like that entire fucking just could have been wiped from the movie. Yeah. Just show that the fucking ambulance crashed off screen and we would have fucking understood what happened.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, we needed none of that.
I also kind of wish people would have hated this, but I wish Michael didn't put on the mask until the very end, like when he sees Laurie again, like when he... Like, I like his physicality. I like the look of him. I'm like, this looks good. I'm good with this. Don't put on the mask until you see Laurie. Because, like, you just killing other people, that's fine. Nobody really has, like, the fear of the mask besides her.
Yeah.
Or, like, when he sees Annie or something.
I don't know. Like, I don't outright hate the idea, but I feel like it would go against what this Michael has been set up to be. Because he really does... like use the masks as his personas, so it's like it's kind of like a big right. Or
maybe I wish he was using different masks.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Because he had all those. He had 1 billion in the first one. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, but he was just dreaming of the one that he could never get back to.
Then he did. Yeah, killed everyone. Killed Danny Trejo.
It's like, why is that one special? Why not the little clown mask that you wore? But yeah. Halloween 2. I'm trying to think of more things I want to say on it. Like, I guess we finished the synopsis. So basically, Laurie's struggling. Michael's back, killing things. Loomis releases a book where Laurie finds out through that book that she is Michael's little sister, apparently originally named Angel.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of that. But I guess it makes sense. She probably would have had a different name.
I think they say that in the first movie. They say that her name was Angel too.
They might.
Brad Dourif says it to.
Yeah, potentially. I might have just not.
But it's like one. Yeah, it's like one line.
Yeah. And then eventually she ends up in the shack with Michael, and after basically they get the call that Danielle Harris's character died. I'm blanking on her name right now.
Annie.
Yeah. So, Brad Dourif and the police force circle around that shack.
I want to shoot you right now.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to, legitimately. I'm like, what if he just fucking kills Loomis, right?
It probably would have been counterproductive to what he was hoping to accomplish, but it's like, you kill Michael, then you kill Loomis. But, then, in this version, Michael gets shot, and then Laurie stabs him a bunch of times after he gets, like, impaled against some spikes.
And then she takes the mask and walks out with it.
And then they're like, what the fuck? And then she pans into a white room where we find out she's, like, in an asylum or something. I think the implication in the director's cut is that this is supposed to be, like, just her dying, fleeting, like, psychosis, kind of like bleeding imagery as she's, like, dying, but
and then she's in, like, a mental ward, and she sees her mom and the white horse walking towards her. Which I like both. I think both endings are decently well executed, I guess. Well, I haven't seen the director's cut, but from what you're saying, I'm like, I feel like I like that.
It sounds...
I feel like a lot of people wouldn't, but...
It sounds more fulfilling than... I guess the ending isn't, like, awful in this, but it sounds like that ending pulls together some of the threads that the movie was going for better. But yeah, honestly, pleasantly surprised with this one, because I was expecting to go into it and hate it like I did the first time. And no, I was actually kind of respected what this one was kind of going for. I do find Laurie kind of acting this way to be a pretty believable reaction.
I think, like, I think most of the dialogue in this one is actually pretty good. Like, I think some of her friends' stuff that they say, like, at the party, I'm like, this is cringe. This is bad.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, transphobic things said in these movies. The first one I have less of a problem with, because, like, they're supposed to be, like, the worst, but, I'm like, why are you making these friends also the worst?
Yeah, it's because he's just like, I'm going to kill him off.
Yeah.
That probably giving him too much credit there. But, yeah. That aspect is definitely disappointing. But, at least they were dressed as Rocky Horror characters.
Yeah. I have it's an interesting take on the character to describe Frankenfurter as just a dude who wants to be a chick. I'm like, that's bad. That's not great.
No.
Even for 2009, that's not great.
Yeah. No, definitely not.
A little disappointed there. But I think most of the dialogue, especially with Laurie, I think is pretty good.
It's decent.
I think I actually like really want to watch this director's cut now, though, because I think like the exploration that Loomis not only created Michael, but like with this book, with like the way he treats his victims, like would also create Laurie as the next like shape, the next monster. I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, but I thought this movie was pretty okay. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I would say this is probably in the upper half of Halloween movies for me, at least. But,
that's fair. I can see why.
It's hard for me to imagine. Like, Halloween Ends, I can get why people hate that one. I really enjoyed it, but I at least like get that one. This one, I have more, like, especially like the regular cut. I'm like, it's hard for me to think like why people like hate this one.
Yeah, I think people,
especially more than the first Rob Zombie one.
Yeah,
like
I think people lean towards like Laurie lashing out.
I was like, they're different. They're different explorations of the same character, but I think that's fun. Like, that's good.
No, I'm only guesstimating here, but I'd say that they probably just they don't take it for what it's trying to be, and they just kind of take it at face value, and they go, Laurie's lashing out. Michael may or may not actually be in the movie, and he shows his face and he says "die" in one scene.
Oh no.
It's got a bunch of weird David Lynch dream sequences that make no sense. Why is Michael's mask on that turkey in the background? What does any of this mean? Kind of a thing. It's like, what am I watching Halloween or Eraserhead over here? Kind of a deal.
But it's just like, if you're going to remake a movie, make it your own, you know? Like, so I'm glad this exists, I guess.
Yeah, no. I'm glad. I feel like it was a dose of something that the Halloween franchise needed. And, I
do think that, like, David Gordon Green probably likes this movie because it does, like...
I mean, what I'll say for Halloween Ends, even though I didn't really care for it, it feels like it was trying to blend together... It kind of felt like the Spider-Man PS4 of Halloween movies, where it was trying to take different ideas from different Halloween movies and trying to put them together in a package that ultimately, while I don't think Spider-Man PS4 is trying to be divisive in any sort of way, Halloween Ends definitely is this movie. And to what success that is to be determined... To each their own. I
think we'll see. I do think in about, like, the same way that Halloween 2, I think, is getting a lot of different reevaluations by people coming back to it.
Yeah.
And, like, I know a lot of people that really like that movie now that maybe didn't like 10 years ago. I think Halloween Ends will have a much different, like, general consensus in, like, 10 years.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I need to rewatch it, but, like, to me, Halloween Ends just, like... I don't know. I had some logical errors with it, like when it came to like how characters were reacting in certain situations. Some of it I understood, and some of it I felt like was kind of drawing from nothing in order to stoke conflict. And also, like there were just things about it where it was like, oh, like they're doing the Christine thing, so it didn't feel very entirely original to me. So.
Well, no, that's literally like apparently David Gordon Green like sent this to John Carpenter, like the script, and he's like, just let me know if it feels too Christine. Like that's what the intention was from the which I haven't seen Christine, but I know the premise. Like I know, but also I feel like I'd really like Christine now.
No, Christine's good. Yeah.
Because I really like what they're going for in ends. But yeah, I think this movie is good.
Yeah, I think it's decent. I don't think it's good, but I think it's decent.
I think you would also give this one maybe a 5.
Yeah, I think I'm sitting about it at a 5. I think you might give this one like a 6 or a 7.
I'm gonna give it a 6. I feel like that director's cut, like from what we've talked about, that might be a 7, maybe even an 8, but like probably a 7. Just because I think that ending is like a good idea. And if you have more scenes that kind of implicate that, I think is good. So,
yeah.
I'll let you know when I watch it. I don't know if I'll do it this week, but I would like to watch it sooner rather than later. Because those ideas sound good. And I really like watching, especially movies that I don't mind. I like watching the original and then the director's cut, especially because they can be substantially different. Like Justice League, both of them are really bad, so I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay on that one.
Yeah. But watching like the Donner cut versus the theatrical cut of Superman 2. I mean, I'm not crazy about
it's like
Superman 2.
That one I think is at least more interesting. I haven't seen the Donner cut, but I'm like, I'd be more inclined to watch that one.
Yeah, I think I may still prefer the theatrical cut because I watched them when we watched through them. But the Donner cut definitely has its highlights. But yeah. Yeah, so looks like we have a week more of Halloween.
So we're rewatching all the Halloween.
Oh God, no. Yeah, I was thinking about like, ooh, I'm gonna pick a franchise, but no, I think I want to keep it light. Something nice. I was thinking about even going into some of the bad things, but I think I'm gonna just stick.
Maybe I do want to watch something bad.
Well, we're gonna watch one good movie at the very least. You got a coin or something?
I have a dice. You can just do evens and odds.
Okay. Odds trilogy, evens 2 movie double feature.
And it is a 2 double feature.
Double feature. So we're gonna watch Creep Show and we're gonna watch Trick or Treat.
Was the trilogy going to be Creep Show 1 through 3?
Yes, and the third one is bad. The second one is getting there. It's not as good as the first one, but yeah, the first one is really good.
Okay. I just let out a stinky fart. That's a stinky one. All right, well, we're going to turn on the fan. We're going to get this going. I might have shit my pants, Thomas. No. Okay. Creep Show, Trick or Treat. Yes. Sounds good. Did you watch the animated Creep Show movies? The, like, newer specials? There's 2 new specials that came out last year and the year before, I think.
No, I haven't seen any of the third season. I watched the first 2 seasons of Creep Show. I thought the first season was okay. I think it started off stronger than it wrapped up, and the second season I thought was.
Oh, is it a whole show that's going on?
Yeah, Shudder's got like.
Oh, I just knew that there was these animated specials. I didn't know they had like.
Then yeah, show. I've seen 2 Creep Show animated specials.
Okay, yeah,
they're the ones you're talking about.
I think they are.
There's one that's like a guy marooned on an island, or no, I think it's one special that's like a couple animated vignettes that they did.
I think they did another one of that recently.
Okay. Yeah, because I think they've done a whole nother season since I last stopped watching. It got a little out in the weeds.
Do you have Shudder?
I did. I don't currently.
The new Dario Argento movie's out.
Oh, really?
Apparently it's decent. Better than his last endeavor, which I think was Dracula 3D.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it like I mean, I haven't watched Dracula 3D, but I've seen the first 20 minutes of Mother of Tears, and not crazy about the quality of that one.
Yeah. Anyway.
I need to watch through that sometime.
Anyway, we'll talk to you all next week where we watch epic movies. Swagadelic!